we go out on the Newsmaker line and we bring in our good friend, the senior NFL columnist at silverandblacktoday.com, also a great contributor over at Bleacher Report, and that is Mr. Mo Moton. And he joins us now from an undisclosed bunker in Brooklyn, right, Mo? Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Thanks to Austin Gale from Pro Football Focus for joining us. Interesting conversation there around free agents and the Raiders' needs on primarily defense. And I'm glad, Kelly, he agreed with me on the fact that there's no true number one wide receiver that's going to be available in free agency, so the draft is the way to go. And we've known that. I keep hearing about how deep the draft is at wide receiver.
Yeah, the draft's deep at wide receiver, but is it number one deep? No, it's quality and depth deep, but not that prototypical X number one receiver.
Yes.
You've got two, maybe three, and that's it.
Yes, and speaking of quality, we go out on the Newsmaker line and we bring in our good friend, the senior NFL columnist at silverandblacktoday.com, also a great contributor over at Bleacher Report, and that is Mr. Mo Moton, and he joins us now from an undisclosed bunker in Brooklyn, right, Mo?
By the way, I like that segue. I gotta have you introduce me anytime I go to a public function. Your segues into introducing me are top-notch quality. But yes, unaffected here in New York City. Everyone out here, pretty much everyone out here is going about business as usual. Pretty much like the NFL out here. So
yeah, and we're getting increasing buzz about, of course, the NFL draft being postponed and canceled here in Las Vegas. No confirmation of that, but there's an increasing buzz around it, Mo. But let's jump into the reason we have you on. And, of course, everybody's tired of talking COVID-19, so we want to talk about linebackers. And this week up on the website, you wrote a story about 12 options that the Raiders could look at in both the draft and free agency to address the glaring need that they have at linebacker. But before we do that, and we'll hit on just a couple of them because we can't go through all 12, obviously. But when you look at the position for the Raiders, talk about what it is in the NFL, just for folks out there. What kind of linebacker do you need today? Because it has changed over time.
Yeah, you definitely need guys who can cover. There are an increasing number of pass-catching tight ends, and now running backs are expected to catch and run out of the backfield. So to combat that, you need guys who can cover the middle of the field, sideline to sideline, shadow tight ends, or at least reroute them so it makes it difficult for them to get in their lanes and catch footballs. And the Raiders just simply don't have that. Markel Lee, I remember Markel Lee came out in 2017, and Raiders fans went crazy over Markel Lee. I don't know if that's the Reggie McKenzie effect, but I warn people he's not a guy who's going to cover the middle of the field if you need somebody to combat Travis Kelce or Hunter Henry. It's just not going to happen with him. And he's played sparingly. I had high hopes for Nicholas Morrow, but apparently he's still in those developmental stages. He's probably going to be just an average starter if he is a starter. And the Raiders need to just influx that position with quality talent.
Yeah, no, there's no question that that they need that influx of talent, Mo. But when we look at some of the guys that you mentioned, and we talked just a moment ago with Austin Gale about Cory Littleton, you look at him, and of course, he's going to be at the top of everyone's list because of the athleticism that he has and the talent that he has and the ability to disrupt offenses. Cory Littleton, if they were able to get him, talk about how that would remake that linebacking core, what it would mean for the Raiders defense.
Well, I'm sure Kelly knows this, but I just, first of all, Cory Littleton is about 228 pounds. So let's just put that out there. That's not really a Gunther-type linebacker, but if the Raiders were to sign him and the Raiders were to grab him, I think he's the type that I just talked about. He can cover the middle of the field. I know some people said, well, he allowed 71.8% completion percentage. You got to understand, he's a linebacker. He's not a cornerback. He's not a free safety. So he's gonna let up some catches, but he was targeted 85 times last year, like those 61 completions. And I think he didn't leave any open gashes in the middle of the field. He's not the perfect cover linebacker. I think Joe Schobert is more of that. But Cory Littleton, if he's kept clean, if you have a strong defensive line, he can run side to sideline, stop the run, and as I said, he can pick off some passes. He has some impact plays in coverage. He has 5 interceptions in the last 2 years. I believe 22 passes broken up also in coverage. So I think he fits the bill if you want a guy who can cover in the middle of the field.
I agree with Mo 100% that Cory Littleton's not the typical guy that Gunther looks for because Cory Littleton's good at football. Cory Littleton's built for today's game,
ouch.
which is the exact opposite of everything Gunther looks for in football. And speaking of that, you mentioned in your article, Mo, that Nick Vigil is from Cincinnati, familiar with Gunther's system, blah, blah, all that stuff. Cincinnati's linebacking core was as bad as the Raiders, and Cincinnati doesn't want him. Why would the Raiders want Nick Vigil?
Is that you bring up a good point, and you just said it. I don't want to diss Gunther and say he brings bad football players to Oakland or Las Vegas now, but you got to understand that Gunther, what he's done since he's been there, the Raiders have brought linebackers who know his system. And I don't know if you probably don't remember Emmanuel Lamore. Montez Burfict last year, of course. I think the Raiders are going to do that for the 3rd consecutive year, just going to bring over a linebacker that they pretty much know is familiar with Gunther's system to help younger guys up to speed and to basically be a starter for probably the short term. Again, I will say this about Nick Vigil. Did improve in the second half of the season. A lot of Bengals writers and fans point out that he improved after let go of Preston Brown. He was able to settle into one linebacker spot.
Again, we're speaking with Mo Moton, senior NFL columnist at silverandblacktoday.com about his piece this week about the Raiders linebacker core. Make sure you go up there and read it, silverandblacktoday.com. Follow Mo at MOEMOTON on Twitter. And Mo, we get into the college players and draft day 1 targets that you had listed. Of course, we've heard a lot about Kenneth Murray. Both Kelly and I like Kenneth Murray and think that he would be a fine pick at number 12 even. But you have up there, too, Patrick Queen. Talk about Patrick Queen and the differences between him and Murray and why you like one or the other.
I think Patrick Queen has a little more production and pass coverage. I believe he has 5 pass breakups and I believe an interception or 2. But Kenneth Murray is kind of like you would hope that his athleticism projects in the NFL where he can have more production and coverage. I think Patrick Queen has showed in a short period, albeit. I know he just took over a starting spot last year. But I think he's more, I think he can dart around the field a little more than a Kenneth Murray. If you look at Kenneth Murray's physique, he's chiseled. Doesn't mean he can't move around the field, but he's a chiseled guy, and I think he fit more as a middle linebacker, whereas Patrick Queen, you can have him on the weak side. He can kind of start from sideline to sideline, stop the run, shout out tight ends. I think he's more athletic than Murray, slightly more athletic. Of course, they both ran a pretty good 4.5. Of course, they both tweaked their hamstrings, but I think Patrick Queen, if you're looking at ceiling, I think he has a higher ceiling than Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray, you kind of know what he is because he's been a starter for Oklahoma for 2 years, whereas Patrick Queen doesn't have that experience, but again, I think he has that upside.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Mo. Patrick Queen is a little more athletic, and he's more of a side-to-side to where, to me, Murray's more of a north and south kind of guy. But I also think that Murray is a prototypical middle linebacker, which is a lot harder to fill than a Sam or a Will linebacker. I think in the draft, you can get a better production for your outside linebackers in your middle, which is why I have Murray a little higher than Queen. Do you agree?
I agree with your assessment there. The one thing I will say is Cory Littleton, and I just did this research yesterday or last night. Cory Littleton is going to have a massive market. I just don't see the Raiders grabbing him between the market he has and between what Gunther looks for. I think the Raiders are more likely to grab a middle linebacker. What I'm worried about is if the Raiders grab a Joe Schobert and then they move Kenneth Murray to the weak side. I don't like that combination. Just like you, I would prefer Kenneth Murray to be a north-south guy in the middle of your defense.
Right, and I mean, look what happened last year. They moved Clelin Ferrell around, right, and played him out of position, and we've seen a lot of that due to the fact that they don't have talent. They've been moving guys around and not playing them in their natural position. Mo, with about 45 seconds left, Troy Dye out of Oregon as a draft day 2 target. That one intrigues me. I've watched the kid a couple times, and for a second day guy, which most of those guys not many of them stick. But if you're going to take a flyer on a guy, you talk about athleticism and speed. He's sort of in that realm of that kind of new form of linebacker, is he not?
Definitely. He's that guy. I mean, 6'4", 226 pounds. I believe 5 interceptions and 14 pass breakups in his career. A lot of people say, well, he got hurt in college, and I get that, but he's able to still play. Like, he was still on the field and still perform. I believe he played his bowl game with a broken thumb or a torn meniscus, had a surgery in his knee. So one of the underrated aspects of being able to play in the NFL is being able to play through pain, through injuries. And though he had some nicks, he still was able to get on the field and be athletic and show that side-to-side line athleticism on the field for Oregon. I think he'll be a great weak side linebacker for the Raiders, assuming they get a middle linebacker. Again, he's not a guy who's not going to be in the middle of your field because he's not big enough for that. But if you want a guy who can, again, cover tight ends, follow running backs, I think he's your guy.
All right, Mo Moton. And Mo, I know you have a story coming up tomorrow looking at free agent possibilities for the Raiders, correct?
Absolutely, and I think fans are going to be kind of disappointed in what I project, but this is more real than fantasy. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, realism. There's some people who don't want realism. If you write something that they don't like, then they think you're doing a terrible job. But we all know that. And Mo does not do a terrible job. He does an amazing job. Amazing writer and always interactive with his readers. Mo Moton, senior NFL columnist at silverandblacktoday.com. And also you can catch his stuff on Bleacher Report. Mo, we'll talk to you next time, my friend.
All right, talk to you guys soon. Thanks for having me on.
All right,
thanks,
that was Mo Moton. Always fun to talk to, Kelly. And I think overall, Mo's always got a very good. We don't always agree on everything with him, but overall, I think with his linebacker story, pretty dang close.
Yeah, it was good, and it's funny. I didn't get to say anything on the Nick Kwiatkoski. He had him on there. I've been a big fan of his from West Virginia.
Yeah,
and I thought he was going to have a chance to do something. The second he went to Chicago, I knew he was going to get buried. So I think this is a guy you're going to get him really cheap. He's really got potential. He's somebody I would definitely target.
And that's the thing, especially at that position. I mean, there's the sexy names, and I get that, but there's also guys who can really significantly help them that aren't necessarily going to move that sexy meter, but they are going to move that defense in the right direction. Yeah. All right, when we step aside for a moment, when we get back, it's time for Kelly's Corner. Last week was epic. I don't know that he can top it.
I can't.
Taysom Hill.
Not going to.
Awesome. Watch the video. But we will give it a shot. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.